Just become aware of your breath, the gentle exhale and inhale, and the connection between your exhale and your inhale. Becoming aware of your breath, noticing if your inhale and your exhale are disconnected. Noticing if you are holding with your inhale or your exhale. See if you can become aware of your breath and becoming full, gentle, and connected. Your breath to see if you can become aware again of the right now. What is now? What's happening now? Happening now? What is happening now? And who is happening now? The Course in Miracles tells us that if you don't hear the voice for God, it's because you don't choose to listen. So let's practice listening to the voice of God, the voice of love. Practice listening. And to practice listening to that voice, we first acknowledge that we want to hear that voice. And maybe we ask for assistance in hearing that voice. But if nothing else, set that intention, make that prayer, and then try. Maybe you might say, "Love, speak to me that I might be healed." And listen. Comes up as you're trying to listen, bring that voice to God and say, "God, here's what I'm using to keep me from hearing your voice. Here's what I'm using to stop my ears. I give it to you. Take it from me. Correct it for me. And then go back to trying to listen for love's voice. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, just bring your awareness back to the room, and back to your body. All right. Thank you, Jim. All right. So, the section that we are on tonight, we're continuing on as we move through chapter 12. And tonight we are in the third section in chapter 12 called The Investment in Reality. I see one more book on the piano if anybody needs it. The Investment in Reality. All right. So this is a great section that talks about what poverty is, what it means to be poor, and how to not be. Wouldn't that be great? It's practical, huh? So it says what the experience of lack, where lack comes from, and what it really is, and how it is undone. Okay? So we should all be able to relate to it really well, right? Okay, is that okay, Jim? All right, so the investment in reality. The author says, I once asked you to sell all you have and give to the poor and follow me. Remember that? Remember that from a long time ago? Way back? And he says, this is what I really meant. Oh, good. Good. I'm really glad you're going to retranslate that, because I knew I couldn't do it. This is what I meant. If you have no investment in anything in this world, then you can teach the poor where their treasure is. Oh, that's what you meant. That's what he really meant when he said, sell all you have and give to the poor and follow me. What he really meant was, if you have no investment in anything in this world, then you can teach the poor where their treasure is. Now, who are the poor, by the way, that he's referring to? Okay? The poor are merely those who have invested wrongly. Who knew? That's who the poor are. Anybody feel like they've invested wrongly? Like invested in something that had no yield, right? Okay, that's whom he's describing as the poor. He didn't say anything about money. He said those who have invested wrongly, invested their time and energy in something that did not produce anything of real value and cost a lot. That's a poor investment, correct? Okay, so that's who the poor is. So, I don't know about you, but I know I have made some poor investments. Yes, okay. And I'm still paying on them, actually. He says, but because the poor are in need, it's given you to help them. Well, why is it that because they're in need, it's given me to help the poor? Well, that's because you're among them. You're one of them. That's why it's given you to help the poor, because you are among them. You are also one who is invested wrongly. I love it. So he says, so consider how perfectly your lesson would be learned if you were unwilling to share their poverty. Why? Because poverty is lack, and there is only one lack, since there is only one need. Okay, so how does your lesson get learned? Your lesson around poverty, abundance, your lesson around that gets learned if you are unwilling to share their poverty. Okay, so it's given you to teach the poor where their treasure is because you're among them, and the thing you're supposed to be teaching the poor is this. You're supposed to be not sharing their poverty. In other words, not agreeing with them that they lack. Don't agree with them that they really lack. Don't agree with them that their lack is real, which means lasting. Don't agree with them. Don't encourage it. Don't support it, right? Don't tell them, right? That's what it means to say don't share their poverty. Consider how well your lesson will be learned if you don't share, if you're unwilling to share their poverty. Now, what is poverty? It's lack. What is poverty? It's lack. I mean, I'm experiencing poverty means I experience lack. And he says, and by the way, there's only one lack, just like there's only one need. That's interesting. To say there's only one lack is to say there's only one need. So lack is need also. Interesting. Okay, so now we know what poverty really is. It's the, I don't think I have enough. And there's not enough to go around. And I got to take in order to have. And I can't share and still have. If I give to you, I lose. That's lack. Okay? And there's a lot of that around, huh? A lot of that. So I'm supposed to be unwilling to share people's lack. I'm not supposed to be going, yeah, that's right, there isn't enough to go around. You better take all you can and then take some more and then go put it in the bank. Right? So I'm supposed to be unwilling to support that idea. Now, I don't tell people they're wrong, and I don't beat them up for believing in lack, right? I'm just not supposed to believe it when they tell me about it. You see that, the differences? I'm not going to go, oh, I can't believe you're believing in lack. That's so silly. Don't you know there is no lack? In other words, to not share their lack doesn't mean to correct them verbally. It means in your own mind to remember for them that they're still connected to the source of everything, and you ask to remember for them within your own self. Does that make sense? About how it is that you don't share their belief in lack. You don't share their poverty. You don't verbally correct them and go, well, you know there's no lack. I thought you studied A Course in Miracles. That's not what it means. It means remember for them silently. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay.
Can you give an example?
Well, let's say let's say you're talking to somebody and they're telling you about how somebody stole from them, whether it was emotionally or financially or physically or anyway, and they're complaining to you and talking to you about how someone took something from them. And so they're telling you about their experience of their own poverty. Now I have less, they're telling you. Somebody took something from me and now I'm bereft, or now I'm poor. Anybody recognize that? So in what it would mean in practical terms to not share that person's poverty is to remember for them while they're talking that they will never be disconnected from their source of good or the source of love or the source of supply and sustenance. It's impossible that anything living be cut off from the source of all good, all love, all supply. And you remember that for them. Maybe you'll sense that they're open to hearing that and that that would be a blessing. Maybe they're open to that. And maybe you'd be able to say to them, oh, you know, I know that that perception hurts. And I know it seems like that's true. But it may be that you're still connected to the source of all love and all supply. And maybe, you know, this is a great chance to reconnect with that and remember that. Maybe they'd go, oh, that's awesome, thanks. But more likely that they're not, right? And that's why they have the problem, right? They have that problem because they don't know the truth, that they're always connected to the source of all supply, right? So more than likely they don't know that that's the truth, and more than likely they wouldn't be so ecstatic to hear the truth. Don't make the mistake of expecting people to be ecstatic when you tell them the truth. Only super duper miserable people who have reached their pain threshold are happy to hear the truth. Only they are happy to hear the truth. Most other people, when you tell them, hey, you don't have anything to fear, or you don't have anything to be upset about, you're still connected to the source of good, just ask. They act like you just attacked them because you didn't agree with their version of their problem. You know, really, when you're done with your problem, you'll be happy when somebody gives you a different interpretation of what you're going through. But until you're done suffering, until you have gotten all the suffering out of it that you're ready to wring out of it, that you're trying to wring out of it, until then you're not happy to hear that there may be another way of seeing it. So don't be surprised or disappointed or mad when you tell someone the truth, that they are only love and they could never be poor in reality, and they feel insulted. Don't be angry, don't be shocked, don't be mad, don't be surprised. And for those folks who would be offended by the truth, because they're still attached to their version of their problem, you are supposed to remember the truth for them silently. And the truth you remember for them silently will do them a heck of a lot more good than what you say with your mouth. Right? Because what you remember for them silently, they can't defend against. Because you're one. You do share a mind. Right? So isn't that interesting? If you remember the truth for them silently, they can't defend against that. They can't go, oh, you're crazy. Right? It goes in. This is what the Course says. When you remember the truth for somebody, it comes from you, the Holy Spirit in you, not your ego, and it goes straight through their ego to the Holy Spirit in them, and the Holy Spirit holds it for them until they're ready. And when they're ready, the Holy Spirit goes, and they go, I just had the most wonderful idea, thinking it was theirs. Not realizing that it was truth that they had been given graciously. And the Holy Spirit had held on to it for them until they were ready. And then it just floated up into their consciousness.
I think sometimes this is one of those reversals where they tell us their sad story, and we realize that nothing of any real value can be lost.
Right, exactly.
And in seeing it in them, then it occurs to us, oh yeah, that loss I thought I had was just like, so we end up the one being healed, so to speak.
Exactly.
By trying to give it to them.
That's right.
And then we truly don't share their idea, and it lessens their pain.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And you may have noticed by now that the things people complain to you about or tell you about their pain, their poverty, there's a reason why they're telling you. And that reason is is that Spirit brought that person to you to tell you and to mirror for you your own belief in lack, so that you would have another chance, to remember the truth. And so it is the most spooky thing how whatever I'm going through at any given time, lo and behold, that's what the person that I'm talking to, whoever it is talking about. That's what they're complaining about. Or that's what they're blaming me for. Right? They're blaming me for it or blaming someone else for it, and they're telling it to me and blaming me because I needed to see a reflection of my own misperception, my own belief in lack, so that I could see it and go, oh, right, I believe that. I have that belief. Oh yeah, I need to bring that to love for correction now, right? So at this point, unless I see a reflection of my thoughts, I don't really know what I'm really thinking. Because I think I'm thinking one thing. I think I'm thinking, oh, love and peace and truth. Totally unaware of what I'm really thinking, okay? Unfortunately, there's kind of a big split between what I'm really thinking and what I think I'm thinking. And then it's what I see seemingly outside of me that reveals what I'm really thinking. So every encounter is my way, my opportunity to get out of denial and clean up my unconscious and clean up my shadow. That's what every encounter really is. It's an opportunity. Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? How about today? How about now? That's what every encounter really is about. It's either here to celebrate the loving thoughts that I am having or have had, or it's there to give me another chance to forgive what I think of as my lack, my deprivation, my poverty. Right? That's why the Course says every encounter is a holy encounter, which to me translates into important encounter. Every encounter is an important encounter. Every encounter is an educational encounter, a helpful encounter, if I will choose to remember what's really going on. I'm just meeting myself. Okay? All right. Paragraph 2. All right. By the way, I hate this next paragraph. I just want to tell you that. Maybe you will too. It sounds like the paragraph of the codependence, but it's not. It says, suppose somebody insists on having you do something you think you don't want to do. Oh, that's impractical. That happens all the time. Well, this person's very insistence on this thing they want you to do should tell you that they believe that their salvation lies in you doing it. Now, if you insist on refusing to do that thing that they insist on you doing, which means if you experience a quick response of opposition to what they want you to do, then you also believe that your salvation lies in not doing it. And if you've experienced a quick response of opposition, you then are making the same mistake they are, which means making their error real to both of you. Insistence means investment, and what you invest in is always related to your notion of salvation or freedom. And so the question is always twofold. First question is always, what is to be saved? And the second question is always, how can it be saved? Okay? So let's go back, shall we? Okay, so when somebody asks you, when somebody insists on you doing something that you don't want to do, First of all, they're telling you, their insistence is telling you they believe their salvation lies in that thing, right? And if you have a quick response of opposition like anger, offense, fear, or you want to attack them, if you have a quick response of opposition like, how dare you, right, that kind, then that lets you know that you believe that your salvation lies in not doing it. And so you're making the same mistake that they're making. They believe that their freedom and happiness lies in you doing it. You believe your freedom and happiness lie in you not doing it. And so you're making the same mistake. Same mistake, okay? So he says, and somebody is insisting on something. Somebody's insisting on something and somebody's insisting on not doing something because the insistence means salvation. Insistence means, when you say insistence means investment. I'm insisting on it, you're insisting on it because we have an investment in it, okay? And then he's saying this, he goes, and what I insist on and what they are insisting on is always related to what we believe will save us, okay? So what is it you are insisting on with others? I insist that you respect me. I insist that you be home at a certain time. I insist. So we want to ask ourselves the question, like, what is it that I'm insisting on, right? Because that's what reveals what you believe will save you. What is it you believe will save you? And he's wanting us to ask ourselves that question. And you don't have to look far at it. What are you insisting on? And also, what are the people around you insisting on that you do that you don't want to do? Something to think about. Because that's what reveals what I believe will save me. And it's good to look at what you believe will save you, because there's a very good chance that what you believe will save you is that place that you're investing wrongly, right? If you feel lack or poverty in any way, it's because you are investing in something that what you believe will save you is something that ain't going to save you, that can't save you. Like money, like the body, like power, fame, and physical pleasure. Like those things, right? You know, the popular ones: power, fame, money,
Sex,
physical pleasure, and then, to be redundant, specialness. Okay? So your insistence means investment. And so when you are insisting on something, you need to ask yourself, like, what is it that I believe? What do you say? Two questions to ask. What is it I believe is to be saved, and how can it be saved? Mm-hmm.
What's a real life example on this one?
Okay, so let's say, has it happened to you recently where somebody was insisting on something in your experience, or you were insisting on something? Mm-hmm. 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 I'm not saying what it is, but mm-hmm. So let's say they were insisting that you come home at a certain time, just for example. And if anybody has a better example, then throw it up here. Okay, but let's just say, for example, someone's insisting that you treat them a certain way or that you come home on time. Their insistence lets you know where their investment is. And their investment will always be in what they think will save them, what they think will make them happy. Okay? And if you're like, hell no, I'm not gonna do that. That lets you know what you think is going to save you, meaning that's where you've invested That's what you've invested in as your freedom. Shoot, my freedom comes from not doing that. And my happiness comes from not doing that. That's a poor investment on my part. Just like it's a poor investment on your part to insist that I do something I don't want to do. Right? Does that make sense?
It sounds like a stalemate,
though. Well, it's an opportunity to look at where you have invested, okay? In other words, it's a good opportunity to look at what you believe will save you. And it's worth looking at. You need to look at, what is it I think will save me? Well, let's see, where are all my, insistences? I insist people treat me like this, and I insist on having like this, and I insist that people do like this, and I insist on da-da-da-da-da, right? And what is it that people are insisting around me or with me? So I need to look there to go, oh, the reason why I'm insisting on that is because I believe that somebody making me special and making me number one and doing this for me is going to save me. I think it's going to make me happy. I think it's going to make me free. I think it's going to make me safe. And oh, no wonder why I feel so insecure. Oh, okay, I get it. See the value of looking at the insistences, or whatever that plural word is, because it's only when you go, oh, that's what I think will save me, that you go, oh, that's where I've invested wrongly, and that's why I feel poor. Poor financially, poor in spirit, poor emotionally. That's why I feel poor. Okay, I invested wrongly. I invested my happiness in people treating me a certain way. I invested my happiness in insisting that I have a certain amount of money in the bank at all times. And I've insisted that my home and my job be a certain way. And I've insisted that my friends and my partners be a certain way. And when they don't be that way, I let them know. Okay, right? The places where you're insisting on something, those are all the places where you have invested wrongly. Because that's the place where you believe it's got to be that way, or I will not be safe, I will not be happy, and I won't be loved if it ain't that way. Now, that's the only reason you could experience lack. If you had not insisted that it be that way so that you could be safe and happy, you would have remembered where your real source of abundance comes from. You would have been like, hey, God, where does my real source of abundance really come from? Right? And then you would have remembered where it came from, and you would know that you have everything, and then you would be really free. Okay?
But if you're in that moment.
Which moment? The insistence moment?
Yeah, if you're in the moment and then you realize, oh, how do you stop?
Well, right, what you do is, hold on a second, let me turn this off. What you do is because you've heard the truth, you'll be able to catch yourself. At some point, you'll be able to go, oh, I'm insisting on this because I think that them treating me a certain way or things being a certain way is going to make me safe and happy. But I can use logic now to remember that that ain't true, because I have insisted on it being that way, and it was that way, and I still wasn't happy, I still wasn't satisfied. What did I do? I went to insist on something else. So after you hear the truth, eventually, when you're back in that scenario again, you will go, oh, right. And then you will let reason and logic show you the truth and help you to make another choice. And so where you once insisted that things were a certain way and that people be a certain way for you, The next time that opportunity comes up, which it will, you'll go, well, you know, I've insisted that people treat me a certain way and be a certain way before, and it did not help. It did not make me happy. It did not make me feel loved. So, what is it that the Course in Miracles said I should do instead? And then and when asking that question, then you remember something that you heard. Like maybe, for instance, you would go, this sounds like a time for my workbook lesson. This sounds like a job for my workbook lesson. Because doesn't the workbook lesson, every workbook lesson, it says, just apply it to whatever happens today. Just apply it to whatever happens today. Doesn't it say that? Anyone? It says, just apply it to whatever happens today. So, what you heard enables you to stop for a moment where you used to automatically respond, and then you go, what would my workbook lesson have to say about this? And you apply it. And then the cycle breaks. The pattern breaks for a moment. That's all it takes. Does that make sense? Do you hear the practical application of these ideas right now? Okay.
So does like insistence come from the ego and passion would come from the truth? Because like I'm hearing insistence like you really want something.
Right.
And that could be like passion.
Right. Well, and I like his definition here. Insistence means investment. I'm invested in this happening this way, at this time, from this person. Okay? I'm invested in it. So the truth would be the truth would be something that would say, hey, what is it, how is it that you think that's gonna save you? The truth brings in a question. Now, if they act just like that, like you want them to, is that really going to make you happy? Is that really going to save you? Really? Really? Okay, so the truth, the voice of the truth always, you may notice that in the Course, the voice of the Course always asks a lot of questions. Like it says, you should ask yourself, what is it I'm trying to save here? What is it that I am trying to save with all my insisting on the way things should be? What is it I'm trying to save? And how is it that I believe that that's going to save me? Is it going to restore all my self-confidence to me like that? If they come home on time or they act this kind of way or they do this, is that really going to restore all my self-confidence to me? Is it? What is it that I'm trying to save? And how is it I'm trying to save it? I'm trying to save my sense of specialness, and the way I think, and the way I'm trying to save that is make you feel so darn guilty that you'll do it just the way I want you to.
It talks about the voice of the ego speaks first and loudest, and forgiveness sits and waits and judges not. So that's a good point. The insistence is the loud, rocking shrieks of the ego. Right, exactly. Thank you.
So what we're trying to save is our illusion, our investment. We want to keep that belief that this will save me.
That's right. We have invested heavily in illusions. Primarily the illusions that if something outside myself changed, I'd be happy. That's the primary one. That's the primary illusion that we've invested in. If something outside me were different, I'd be happy. If you would change, and that would change, and they would change, and you would change, and this were different, oh, I'd be so happy. Really. And all the changes that have happened around you, are you happy? So we should, we could use logic to go, well, let's see, I've insisted on people change for me. Sure, a lot. I call it being in relationship. Oh, you promised to change for me? Oh, I'll change for you. Now we're in a relationship.
Well, this opens up a whole can of worms for your beliefs if you think about it, if you dig into it, the idea that no one is saved alone. You know, this never could save either of you.
That's right.
It never has. And like you said, when you look back, you'll see that, no, when I got my way, I wasn't saved.
That's
no,
right.
they weren't saved. And
That's
we've
right.
been doing all this for nothing.
Exactly. When was the last time somebody changed for you and you really were satisfied for good? Anyone? Today? I don't know. Anyone ever? Right. So when I am insisting on somebody changing or doing something in a certain way, I am demonstrating that I believe that my freedom and my happiness and security comes from outside of me, and that is my poor investing. That's been my investment strategy. Would you like to see my investment portfolio? I call it my relationship history. And my job history. And my body history. This is my investment portfolio. All the investments that I've made that have led to the experience of me still not feeling like I've got enough. And still looking.
You know, it's interesting that I kind of perceive there's a spectrum of things that just would not be acceptable. You know, like I don't want to be in a car with a drunk driver.
Right.
I don't want to do certain things.
Right.
And you know, but where do you figure out where that line is that just, you know, because I would prefer, you know, that they don't drink and drive and, you know, or whatever.
Yeah, I also have an insistence. I also insist that the person who's driving me be not drunk.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's okay to insist on certain things.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I insist that nobody take a gun and shoot me. I insist on that. And I do. And as long as I believe that I need a body to be alive, which might be a while, then I am going to, but the principle still applies. I believe that maintaining my body will save me, and so I'm going to insist that no one run me over.
Well, you know, you can take it to another level, like I insist my kids don't sneak out at night. You know?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's reasonable.
Absolutely. And if the insistence that they don't sneak out is bringing suffering to you, like you can set rules for children without suffering.
No,
Right, then it's not something that you need to look at and question.
Yeah.
It's when your insistence, remember this, when your insistence on something is not paying off or it's hurting you, that you need to go, let me take another look at this. Whereas my insistence that my kids don't sneak out at night is not something that's hurting me, right? It's just, so in other words, I can set a boundary without suffering. I can say to my kid, no, you can't go out, without going, without being, overcome, right? It's the insistence that hurts me. I'm insisting that people be like this, and when they're not like that, I suffer. I get mad, I hold a grievance, and that grievance hurts me. It hurts my body, and it hurts my bank account, right? So that's the insistence and the boundaries that you really need to take a look at and question. And the way that he told us how to do that, you go, what is it that, 2 questions, what is it that I believe is to be saved in this situation? And a lot of times, the answer is, what is it I believe is to be saved in this situation? Well, I believe my pride, aka my specialness, is to be saved. That's going to be a frequent answer to that question. Because usually it's not that we're trying to save our life, it's usually we're trying to save our pride. I think that my pride is dependent on people behaving and treating me a certain way. And so that's most of where our defenses and our insistencies come from, right? Most of them are not like, I insist on not driving with a drunk driver. See what I'm saying? So, all right. And then it goes on and it actually, believe it or not, actually gives an example. As always, I should have just read on, but that's all right. You know, just notice that whenever you're reading a course and you're like, well, what does that mean? Just keep reading, because it's already anticipated your question and it's now going to give you an example of what it means. Okay? The mind that wrote this is much smarter than ours. I know that sounds impossible, hard to believe, but it is. Okay, paragraph 3. Here's a practical example. Whenever you become angry with someone, for whatever reason, you are believing that your ego is to be saved, and to be saved by attack. Okay, so there's the answer to our question. Whenever I get angry, here's what I believe. I better save my ego. That person has just threatened me. Now, when you say that person just threatened me with what they said, what you're saying is, my ego, they just threatened my ego. My ego just felt threatened. Because remember, your spirit doesn't feel threatened. Your right mind doesn't ever go, oh, I can't believe you said that. How dare you? That's never your right mind that says that. Your right mind is a little more secure than that. Your right mind isn't like every other 5 minutes going, oh, oh, right? Only your ego gets offended. Your right mind laughs, thinks the ego is hysterical. Just in case you were wondering how to tell the difference. So whenever you get angry, it's because your ego feels like it's been attacked, which it always does. The ego is always offended. It's so sensitive. And think about how we've projected our really fragile, really sensitive ego onto God. Like we're like, oh, can't wear that outfit to church, God will be mad. Can't say that word, God will be mad. Can't do this on Sunday, God will be mad. You know the things we don't do because God's so sensitive. God is so sensitive. You know, can't say this, can't do that, can't even think that. God's so sensitive, you can't even think that without God being mad. Okay? Does that sound familiar? That's the ego. It's real sensitive, it's real frightened, it's offended by everything that moves or thinks or creeps or crawls. Just in case you were wondering what the ego is, it's that part of you. Just can barely hear somebody talk without something that sets it off or is offensive or threatening. So, whenever you feel angry, here's what's happening. You're believing that your ego's been threatened and now your ego needs to be protected or defended, and the only way to do that is to attack back. That is what anger means. Woo! Wow. That doesn't leave much wiggle room, does it? Are you telling me that that's what my anger is all the time? Well, let's see. It said, for whatever reason, whenever you get angry with someone. Wow. Whenever I get angry for someone, for whatever I believe, why I'm angry at them, I believe my ego's been attacked. I believe my ego, aka my pride, is to be protected, and the only way to do that is by attacking back. Wow. So that's the answer to that question. What is it I believe needs to be saved in this situation and how? What I think needs to be saved is my ego, my pride, my specialness, and the way I think I need to save that is by attack, aka anger or whatever. All right. So then he says, now, if there's two ways this can happen. If they're attacking you, then you agree with that belief. And the other way that it could happen is if you're attacking them, they are reinforcing your belief, right? So let's say you're attacking me. That is me agreeing that the ego is to be saved by attack. And if you're attacking me, that's me reinforcing that belief, that the ego is to be saved and by attack. Wow, interesting. So then it says, and it says,
this kind of, I'm getting the impression that the ego doesn't have any way to relate to anything or anybody except attack.
That's right. The ego doesn't have any way of relating to people except through attack or exaltation, attack or worship. That's the two extremes. The ego's either like, oh, you will save me, or you are threatening me. That's about it. That's the ego's range.
How does running away come into it?
Attack.
Is that a covert?
Getting away. Yeah. That's how the ego doesn't, because the ego's insane. The ego doesn't see anything ever the way it is. It either sees something to be worshipped, something better than it, or something worse than that, something worse than it, attack. So it's like exaltation or crucifixion. Either I'm going to worship you as the source of my happiness, or I see you as something to attack, to make me safe. You know, kind of like the range we often do in our relationships. Recognize that range? Starts off in awe, worship, and ends up in crucifixion. Anybody recognize that? Okay. That's the ego's range. The ego never sees equals. The ego never sees equals. The ego never sees equals. The ego always sees something to get or something to get away from. Something to get from, something to take from, or something to run from. It doesn't ever go, oh, look, there's myself again. It doesn't see that. The ego doesn't look out and see itself. The ego looks out and sees differences. Right? Your right mind looks out and sees only equals. Oh, they're the same. They're innocent and they don't know it, just like me. They're innocent, they're rich and don't know it, just like me. That's what your right mind sees. Your right mind sees only equals, only the same, only itself. And your ego always sees either something to worship and get or something to attack. Okay? Just so you know, it's like we're always being reminded how to tell the difference between the two voices so that we can choose better. All right. So he says, then, very important. Remember. Does that mean remember? Oh, right. Remember that those who attack are poor. Oh. Those who attack are poor. That's where my poverty comes from. Now, those folks who are poor, their poverty is asking for gifts, not further impoverishment. In other words, they're poor. They've invested wrongly. They don't know what the truth is about themselves. And their poverty is asking for gifts, not for you to impoverish them more by attacking them. Right? He says then, and you who could help them, you who could help the poor, are surely acting destructively if you accept their poverty as yours. In other words, if you had not invested just like they did, it would never occur to you to overlook their need. Okay? So when somebody is in your presence and they are expressing their poverty, I don't have enough and it's your fault. I don't have enough and it's their fault. I don't have enough and if you would change, I'd be rich. When they're expressing their poverty, that expression is asking for gifts. It's asking for your remembrance of the truth for them. Their expression of poverty isn't asking for you to go, you're insane, get away from me. Right? And he says that you could help them. You could help them. You can help the poor. You can help the poor. If what? If you don't accept their poorness as your poorness. Don't use their expression of their belief in poverty as a reminder of yours. Right? In other words, you could help them to remember where their source of good is. Speaking of poverty, I love it. We talk about poverty and then money starts falling onto the floor. I love it. And money started flying out of Barnes' pockets. What does that mean? Not much.
So then when somebody is insistent, they saw themselves as poor and needy, then if I get insistent, I saw myself that way too.
That's right.
And so we have two poor people trying to get from each other, neither of whom can give.
Right.
But if I see that I can give them that gift, then I will feel wealthy because I have plenty to give.
That's
and
right.
They will get their gift. So
That's right.
either there again, we both stay poor, we both get rich.
We either both get poor or we both get rich. One thing is for sure is that it doesn't happen apart. It doesn't happen separately, right? So he's saying you could help them. You can help them if you won't accept their lack as yours. Now, your anger or your quick response of opposition to them tells you that you do see their lack as yours. That's what your anger tells you. Someone's just like, I'm poor, I don't have enough, and it's your fault. I don't have enough, and it's your fault. I don't have enough, and it's their fault. If you get angry at them and a quick response of opposition, quick anger, you know what I'm talking about by quick anger? Not that slow kind. Quick anger as they're telling you why they don't have enough. Your anger is you acting destructively with somebody whose lack really is yours, who you could have helped, and yourself with them. Yeah. Had you not acted destructively and chosen anger as a response to their poverty, and your anger at their lack and their deprivation that they're blaming on you, lets you know that you think their lack is yours. That's why you got all mad. How dare you show me my own lack? I don't appreciate that. I am so offended that you showed me what I'm thinking. It makes me mad. Go away. I don't like you anymore. Right. So in other words, if I had not invested as poorly as they had, I wouldn't be angry. I'd be like, oh, poor dear. You invested wrongly. I'll remember for both of us. Right? My anger lets me know that I've invested just as poorly as they had. And that's why I experience poverty and deprivation too.
So I have to heal this thought in me before I can respond appropriately.
That's right. Exactly. I I have to let A Course in Miracles remind me, and I have to let the Course in Miracles or the love of my loving right mind reinterpret for me what my anger means, which is what this curriculum does, which is what your loving right mind does. It goes, oh, remember? Anger means that you've invested just as poorly as they have, or else you wouldn't be so mad right now. You'd be seeing it as a call for love and a call for abundance that it is. So we let our loving right mind reinterpret what our anger means.
Don't we also have to let it say, no, this won't, your salvation isn't here.
Right.
You have to get that idea, or you can't, until you can
Exactly.
get there, you won't let your defense down.
Exactly. Here's the answer to the anger. He gave us the answer. He said, ask yourself 2 things. So, anger means I should ask myself a question. 2 questions. Anger means I should ask myself a question. 2 questions. I should ask myself, what is it I believe I need to protect right now? What is it I believe I have to protect right now, and how? Those are the 2 questions I'm supposed to ask myself when I have anger. What is it I think I need to protect right now? Do I need to protect my pride? Do I need to protect my specialness? Do I need to protect my illusions, my fantasies of the way I think it's going to be and what I think is going to save me? What is it that I'm protecting right now? Because remember, anger means protection. Anger means protection. Anger means protection. I got to protect myself. But why? And what from? And how? Well, I believe I need to protect myself. I need to protect my illusions, and I need to protect my fantasies. And the way I think I need to protect them is by attacking. And then that's the answer to anger, because once you look at that, then you're like, I don't need to be angry. My value is not at stake, and so I don't need to attack. Okay? Once you ask yourself those 2 questions, you will remember, wait, I don't need to protect my value. I don't need to protect my identity. Why do I need to do that? I'm created by God, not them. And if that's the case, then I don't need to attack. And then the only thing left to do is see their poverty as the call for abundance and the call for love that it is. And then give the love. Give the love means remember the truth for them. Silently. Don't forget about the silently part. Remember the truth for them silently. See how that works? Anger means need for protection. Then you got to ask yourself, what do I feel I need to protect? What do I feel like I need to protect right now? What do I feel like I need to protect right now? If you want to be done with the anger. If the anger has finally taken enough of a toll on you, and you're tired of paying the price of anger, which is very high, very high. It makes you poor, that should be high enough. It makes you sick, that should be plenty high enough. It makes you lonely, that should be plenty enough right there. But notice that we have to we're willing to invest in anger so to the cost of our very lives. We're willing to invest our entire life, our life force energy, in something that not only doesn't yield, but takes our very life. Wow. Now, does that match the definition of insanity? Okay. So we could safely say, I'm insane. Right? And just, I'm willing to invest. Anger means I'm willing to invest in something that will not yield anything except my own death. Wow. What is it that needs that much protection? What is it that's so valuable that it deserves the protection with your very own life. Wow, now ask that question next time you get angry. What is it that I'm willing to die for right now? What is it I'm willing to die right now to protect? And the answer is always the same. I'm willing to die to protect my specialness. I'm willing to die to protect my fantasies, what I believe is real, what I believe will make me happy. That's what I'm willing to die for. That's what we would call a poor investment. Yes, I'm willing to invest my very life in something that will actually take my life. Yeah, that sounds great. Here's my money. That's insane. And we're insane. We're insane. And we're still innocent and we're still safe. Because even if you do give up your life, your body's life for a poor investment, even if you do, it still won't work. He's still alive. So even if we have invested very poorly and invested everything for no real worth and no real yield, guess what? Nothing happened. Nothing happened. You just will go to sleep. You just go to sleep, and then you wake up again eventually, and you get another chance to choose again. You always get another chance to choose again. So don't feel guilty if you have invested poorly. Don't feel bad. Don't beat up on yourself tonight if you have invested poorly. Why? Because you will get another chance to reinvest. You will always be given more chances and more energy to invest again. You can't keep yourself from having another chance. Isn't that beautiful?
When you think about all the situations that our life is filled with these chances.
Always.
It's almost daily.
Even if your body dies, you get another chance. Isn't that good? You get another chance. And eventually you just want to wake up instead of get more chances. Yeah, I know I'll get another chance, but I don't want more chances. I just want to wake up. I want to stop the cycle of making a bad investment and getting some more chips. Making a bad investment and getting some more chips.
No more mulligans.
Right. I just want to wake up and accept the truth now. That's what I want. And eventually that's what we all come to. That's what eventually we all come to. That's the good news. You will eventually choose right. You will. And the only question is, now or later? Now or later? That's the only question. Now or later? All right. And that should be good news. And it's good news because if that's true, then you don't need to feel guilty and beat yourself up for having made bad investments. And I like that because I've made a lot of bad investments. So tell me how to stop feeling guilty about that and how to choose wiser sooner. That's what I'm looking for.
Well, you could see it as a teaching experience. You can't recognize a good investment until you made some bad ones.
That's right. Exactly. And the longer you feel guilty about your bad investments, the more time it takes to get those more chips to make a better one. So don't waste your time feeling guilty. It's not necessary at all. Feeling guilty about your poor investments is not necessary to make a better investment. Feeling guilty about your poor investments delays the time that you are given another chance to make a better investment. Right? In other words, you'll get another chance to choose to not attack. You don't have to wait long for that. Another chance to not attack. You'll get another one of those because guess what? There's a lot of opportunities to not attack that are here. Plenty. You could say your whole day is full of opportunities to not attack again. Not attack yourself, right? Oh, I see what's happening here. This is my chance to not attack again. That's what it is. I'm having this encounter because I'm being given another chance to choose again. What was my poor investment last time around? I attacked. Right? Remember what he said? The poor are those who attack. Right? So I'm going to get another chance, and this chance is now my chance to not invest poorly again, to invest wisely, which means to not attack again. Isn't that nice? Just not attacking again is a good investment. Isn't that nice? I don't have to know anything. I don't have to know anything. I just don't attack again. And I've made a wise investment. And that wise investment is going to pay off and pay off and pay off. The wise investment has ever increasing residual gains. You know, residual income. A wise investment has residual income that still comes in even after you forgot about that investment. I'd like some of those investments. How about y'all? And the wise investment that has residual income, even if you forgot, is the choice not to attack again. Don't attack yourself. Don't attack them, even if they are attacking you. Even if the world is attacking you. Even if you've attacked them or yourself. Just don't attack again. Okay? You'll always get another chance to not attack again. Yay, that's the good news. So we're going to stop here for tonight. We're going to stop it. We'll pick up next week at paragraph 4.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to do the love offering and some announcements, and then we're going to do the integration meditation. Okay. Any quick questions or comments before we go into our integration meditation?
When you hear all that, it's amazing how much crap we have to believe to keep this going, and how easy it is to do.
You have to attack to keep your poverty going. Sorry, but you do. You want to keep your poverty going? Well, you're going to have to attack some more. Oh, good. Thank you for telling me. Yes?
Can he revoke the attack if he is apologetic to that person immediately?
You can undo the effects of the attack or the bad investment if you recognize when you recognize the truth, and you can. The Course says that Holy Spirit can undo the effects of your bad investment, your poor investment. And the way that happens is that when you recognize that you've attacked, if you then say, I have been mistaken, and Spirit, love, I ask you to decide again for love for me. That's how the effects of your attack or your poor investment are undone for you. Isn't that nice? That line where it says, the effects of your mistakes can be undone for you if you allow Holy Spirit to decide for love for you. I was all over that. I was like, good. You can undo those effects? Fantastic. I'll take it. I have been mistaken. I thought attack would make me safe. And I was mistaken. And I ask you, Spirit, to decide for love and abundance for me. That's the formula.
But don't you also have to tell the person that you were in error and you're sorry for it?
It doesn't say you have to do that. It may be advised at the time by your internal teacher, but it's not, the teacher doesn't say, first you have to go to them and apologize. It says you need to recognize that you were mistaken. And then you say, Spirit, I've been mistaken. Please decide for love for me. Now, maybe when Spirit is deciding for love for you, maybe Spirit will say, I want you to go and apologize to them. It may, very likely. But you have to, you don't know. It may not be that way. It may be not beneficial to the other person for you to go do that. You don't know.
This is because of the rules of attack, isn't it? I mean, it says you always attack yourself first.
Right.
So I have to attack myself before I can attack another. And this giving it to Holy Spirit, you stop attacking yourself.
Right, exactly.
So then everything that proceeded from that.
That's right. Correct perception undoes the effects of your previous mistakes. Isn't that beautiful? In other words, the Course in Miracles says that truth corrects retroactively. Isn't that awesome? I love that. Oh, please give me something that's going to correct retroactively. I got a lot of retroactive correction I need. Why? Well, basically because I have been mistaken completely about everyone and everything I've ever experienced. That's why. So tell me what will retroactively correct my mistake, the effects of my mistakes. So when you accept truth or correct perception, which is very easily accomplished, it goes like this. You look at the truth. You let yourself hear it. You say it. You apply it. You use it. That is accepting the truth. And when truth comes into your awareness, it replaces the mistakes and then retroactively corrects the effects. Now, tell me what kind of remedy you've ever heard of that does that. Anything? I mean, really, take this. It'll undo all the effects of all the mistakes you've taken and you've made. I've never heard of anything like that.
IRS.
Give them all your money. It'll...
Is this because all minds are joined?
Exactly.
So as you correct yours, you're correcting what defects you have.
Exactly. And the world, as I'm experiencing, is coming from my thoughts. So if I change my thoughts, and I've allowed the truth to replace my mistakes, then guess what happens to my world? Which is what? The effects of all my mistakes. What is my world? The effects of all my mistakes. That's my world. Good old world. The effects of all my mistakes. Oh, that's why I'm so nostalgic for it. That's why I'm so attached to my world. Because it's the effects of all my mistakes. The Course says we react to the effects of all our mistakes, just like we react to our children, with protection and pride. Yeah. So, did that answer your question? Okay. All right. So, don't forget that all my videos are now on YouTube. Some of them are still on Vimeo, the older ones. You can also go to my website and find out more information about my holistic counseling practice if you're interested. And that's annakajawa.com. All right. You guys ready to use what we just heard? I need anybody to say yes, but I'll do it anyway. Because I'm guessing that's why you're here. I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
We're all here because we're not all there.
Okay. All right, I'll take it. All right. So go ahead and just close your eyes. And just breathe. Just breathe. I want you to tune in to how it feels to have heard these ideas tonight. How does the truth feel? And I want you to bring to your awareness a situation within the last week where you felt deprived. You felt like you didn't have enough. And I want you to look at that situation and look to see what you were insisting on in that situation. Out of your feeling of deprivation, what did you then go and start insisting upon? And I want you to look at what it is you were insisting upon in that situation. And I want you to ask yourself, what was it that I believed I was trying to save in that situation? And how was it that I was trying to save that in that situation? And I want you to take note of what it was you thought needed to be saved or protected in that situation, and how it was you thought you could do that in that situation or relationship. Notice where the anger came in. Now let's go ahead and ask for the correction. So now the correction is in first the awareness, which we're doing now, and then the acknowledgement that we were mistaken in what we believed would save us. I have been mistaken in what I believed would make me safe. I was mistaken in what I thought would make me feel worthy, valuable. I was mistaken in what I thought would make me well. I was mistaken in what I thought would make me lovable. And then ask your loving right mind, your internal teacher and healer, teacher, where does my safety, my freedom really come from? Ask. Get her onto the floor. Get her onto the floor. She's about to throw up. Barnes, take her back. There, thank you. Thank you. There she goes. Thank you, Barnes. All right. Just breathe a moment more. Just breathe a moment more. Just breathe, breathe. Beautiful. All right. And then when you're ready, guys for being here.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you for keeping your focus even when the dog threw up. It's a miracle.